The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And I'm Shelly.
Thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and to help people be well. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about setting as a character. So where you place someone matters. The setting can influence the characters, and it can also function as a character. We're going to be talking about examples of that and ways to do that. What else do we have?
Wow, we have that one pause again, right?
It's called a deep breath where we all center ourselves.
Oh, we're doing the Mandra breathing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, as a writer, there are 3 words that are probably the most important words that anyone who wants to be a writer needs to know. 3 words that we'll be saying throughout this show many times, but also in upcoming shows in regards to other parts of writing. But today, in regards to setting, it's show, don't tell.
Oh, how many times have we seen that on our edited pages from Deb?
Yes, a lot.
Show, don't tell.
Yes.
Lot. Very important.
So I wrote 2 examples. Let's say Rose lost her virginity. And in 5 or 6 sentences, I will show you how where it happens tells you so much more about the scene than is actually told.
Okay.
So Rose lost her virginity at the fanciest hotel in town. Well, the parking lot of that fancy hotel. Instead of rose petals, she smelled garbage from the dumpster. And instead of satin sheets, her bottom was rubbed raw by the blanket Bobby threw over the back seat. But Bobby was the only boy she'd ever loved, so it was perfect. And
Okay.
So there's one.
Awkward. Just to remind you, there's a man sitting over here. Just keep that in mind.
I won't even ask.
All right, so that's one setting
Yes.
where it happened.
Rose lost her virginity in her childhood bedroom, on the Barbie bedspread she got for Christmas. She stared at the NSYNC poster and pretended it wasn't happening. Now every time she sees Justin Timberlake, she feels sick to her stomach. Truth be told, she didn't lose her virginity. It was taken from her.
Wow. Very different setting. Very
Right.
different feel.
Right. So you have the Barbie, a Barbie bedspread. Talk about a
the
visual.
innocence.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So very different. And even in the first one, I chose the word bottom. And instead of satin sheets, her bottom was rubbed raw.
Mhm.
It lets you know it's kind of a lightness to it. So each word really does kind of portrays different parts of what's happening. So
it's the same event
same event
in
5 sentences.
5 sentences, 2 very different settings and emotions.
Right.
We got the mood from that.
You created another character, really, by having that broom or the back seat
Mm-hmm.
playing a role in that event.
Well, and what I did when I came up with the line, I don't know, Rose lost her virginity, and at the second scene, she didn't lose her virginity; it was taken from her. That's what I wanted to write, and so then I worked backwards. Where shall I place that? Now, if I put that in the first one,
So you started with this line right here. It was taken from her.
she didn't. I started with she didn't lose her virginity; it
Okay.
was taken from her.
Okay.
And so with that idea, because the first one I wanted it to be kind of romantic. So ironically, even though I wanted it romantic, I made it the parking lot, and I made it
Right.
you smelled garbage, and
Doesn't sound so romantic.
right.
No.
But then I used, and I could have gone just simply romantic,
Mhm.
Because we thought we were going romantic in the first sentence.
Yes.
The fanciest hotel in town.
Right.
and I started going that way. There were rose petals on the bed, and and there were satin sheets, and I was just bored. So I wasn't very interested. So I thought, okay, I'll go back and I'll say the fanciest hotel in town, but then I'll change it. I'll twist it up.
Right.
You think you're in the hotel, but now suddenly you're in the dump truck. I'm not a dump truck.
You're near the dumpster.
You're near the dumpster. I don't know why I pictured a pickup truck. So you think you're at a fancy hotel. You think it's going to be a very romantic moment, but then I change it and I pull you to the parking lot.
Right.
But then I change it back. That it is romantic because he throws the blanket on the bed and he on the back seat, and he's the one who she is the only boy she's ever loved.
Right.
So I kind of took you on a little bit of a journey there through the setting by setting you up thinking it's romantic, thinking that it's being changed, but then finishing with the romance.
Right.
So, and then on the second one, I thought, well, now I don't want to go romantic. I want to go very different. So instead of losing virginity, I'll say it's taken from her. Now, where do I set that? Well, by setting it in her childhood bedroom, on a Barbie bedspread. She's staring at the NSYNC poster. Justin Timberlake makes her feel sick. So now you're like that setting tells you everything before you get to the last line. The last line just confirms everything you've already been told.
With the description of the setting.
Right. You know, if I had written all that, she lost her virginity in the childhood bedroom on the Barbie bedspread. She pretended it wasn't happening. Justin Timberlake makes her, but Bobby was the only boy she ever loved, so it was perfect. See, that's terrible. So if I mixed
that is terrible.
That's just awful. If you guys wrote that, I would say terrible.
Say redo this.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever gotten a terrible from you.
No, Mandra would say, but that's how it happened, and I would say, I don't care. It sucks.
That is
exactly.
true.
That is
I have
true.
said that's how it's happened,
true.
and you said, well, you need to change that.
And it isn't that you have to lie; it's that you have to notice other things.
Well,
Yes.
and it really sounds like that the word you're looking for is movement. You want to control how much movement there is in the scene. In your first example, there was a lot of movement. You moved us into the hotel, out of the hotel, into a back seat, onto a blanket. So there was just a lot of movement. And in the second one, the room itself was still. It was a one-camera shoot, really, in my mind. And we're just looking down at that bedspread. So you control the movement.
More static.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a
And
good
both
point.
impactful in just two different ways.
Right. And I think there are examples of this in our books, right? And how we've used settings. In my book, a lot of it took place in hospitals. And so the hospital setting really does become a character. And there were two main hospitals that we can really contrast the mood of each. The first is Boston Children's Hospital, where there are literally under the sea themes painted in the rooms with, little seaweed and starfish in one and maybe teddy bears and whatever in another. There are the children's artwork out in the hallways. The kids paint their windows. And Brad, having been sick since a child, was still being seen at Children's Hospital, even though he was in his 30s. And that was the hospital that we were comfortable with. The nurses would come in. They had little teddy bears on their stethoscopes and fun prints on their scrubs. And there was a sense of family. There was a sense of innocence. And it just had all those childlike things. And then we are moved to the Brigham, or the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. And it was like, whoa, shocker. This is real. This is adult hospital now. Everything is beige.
Right.
Everything is industrial. There's one clock on the wall. There is no seaweed or starfish or cute little whales around the border of the ceiling there. There's no artwork. And everybody's in blue scrubs. Like there's not, it was such a juxtaposition. And I think each setting helps move that part of the story. So where I set that plays a huge part in the story.
And those two characters are completely different. Those two hospitals are characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading some of that stuff that, that softness was gone. Those teddy bears were not on those stethoscopes.
Right.
And it was a definite
And the level of
different
care
character.
totally changed. So we were moved because Children's couldn't really keep up with what he was going to need. And I remember there's a catwalk that connects the two hospitals. And we literally crossed over that catwalk from Children's to the Brigham, from sort of the childhood we can manage. It's still kind of safe and comforting and whatnot to, oh, now you need to be in the big kid hospital because things have changed. And you walk across that catwalk into your new setting, new character. And,
But that setting is portraying what's actually happening in the medical experience for you.
right.
So it isn't like you started in the serious one and then worked your way backwards. So that is a perfect transition that you didn't just randomly do. I mean, a lot of times I tease you that I want you to make things happen because it will make the story better.
Right.
Here's an example where
I didn't have to try too hard.
Exactly.
It just happened.
yes, definitely you started to get that sense of, okay, this is serious now.
Right.
This is a life and death situation.
Yes,
You're not
we can't
kidding
be
anymore.
at the Children's Hospital
Right.
anymore. We have to go to the big guy hospital. And, I tried to do what Deb says and show, don't tell, and really get the descriptions of both hospitals right so that the reader feels that.
Right. Right, exactly. And in my book, As the Chair Turns, the chair sometimes moves. So it's a different setting. That chair could be in the salon. And
So the hairdresser chair.
The hairdresser chair,
Yes.
that hydraulic chair. So that could be in the salon with that magic cape, with that mirror in front of them. And the stories can be about the client that's actually in the chair with the magic cape on. But sometimes that hydraulic chair is on a stage in a convention center with 3,000 people in an audience, and it's not necessarily the model that's in the chair with the cape on now. It's my inspiring goes to the clients that are sitting in the chair.
Oh,
in
the chairs of the audience. Oh, I see.
So the chair, although it's based around a hydraulic chair, whether that hydraulic chair is in a convention center in front of thousands of people, whether that's in a salon, one-on-one, the
More
mood
intimate,
starts more
right,
intimate,
way
the
more
mood starts to
intimate.
change. And even on set, when we're doing photo shoots, this Skype is this white rounded wall that you're filming in front of, kind of like a green screen. And that hydraulic chair is on set, and now there are 3 cameras around you. But the vision is the person that's now going to watch that DVD for an educational video. So the chair and the character.
So your chair is a character.
My chair is a character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder. Let's ask our producer extraordinaire. Can we take the Writer's Block podcast on the road sometime?
No.
How about surfing?
No.
Oh, we're doing it. We may have to get another producer, but we're doing it.
I have to lug all the equipment.
There's going to be the small version of everything.
Right.
Maybe we could have
So you want a new setting? Is that what you're?
Oh no,
you
no,
want
no,
another
no, no!
podcast setting?
No, I love our setting. I'm just thinking we could have a little segment where we go surfing. That's all.
Okay.
You could just
And
go
we go
surfing. Just throwing that out there.
But we could. I really was thinking of your show. One of these days we should go. Is there ever a show in the area that we could go to?
Yeah.
What's the closest
New York
one?
City's probably the closest, or
When is that?
Baltimore. New York City is the first weekend in March. So I don't think you're back from a
no.
fabulous vacation there, my friend.
No, I've not
Baltimore.
this year. Maybe next year.
What
But we should go one time.
What would going to one of her shows
Oh, right.
do
For the
for your
Writers' Block?
podcast?
I want to see it. I want to see her. That's all. Isn't this all about what we want?
Deb's life has one circle, right?
Correct.
There are not individual circles. She wants one big circle.
Yeah, big hug. One big hug
One
around
big hug
everything I
with
love.
all parts of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like it.
Because Shelley's
Listen,
an
I will
important...
put you in the suitcase and take you with me.
I'm a deal.
Okay.
Because Shelley's part of the show. Shelley does hair. Her book is about the chair.
Right.
I just volunteered to have my head shaved. We could do it on your thing. We could
that would be
cross promote in the
amazing.
show.
That would be
whatever
amazing.
your thing is. They could promote it, and since they have a few more followers than we have,
Just a few.
they're on the K.
They have a K.
They're in the K.
Yeah, they have a K. We could
We're
cross.
writers. Can't we just write in a K? Just call it
Oh
done.
my God, would that be
That's
hysterical? You should put that in
Yeah, that.
in the bio end of it, followed by.
Yes, because
K.
10 K.
Hey, listen, 10K is better than what we got going on right now. We're gonna
better
get
than
there.
10.
We're gonna get there. Better than 10.
But listen, when we were talking about this particular podcast about setting as a character, Deb, you brought up you were doing a comparison between something being set in, like, let's say a Walmart
Yes,
department store versus like a Nordstrom.
right,
So
right. If
say a
you're-
little
if
bit
you're-
more about that.
Let's say if you're writing a story and you want to have a mother whose kid is having a tantrum, and you're going to be observing the mother have. We've all done it. We've all been in a store where a kid has a tantrum, and what do we all
Usually
do?
my kid.
Well, then maybe I shouldn't say the rest. But what do we all do? We judge the mother. I judge the mother. I think get your damn kid under control. Isn't that what you guys do?
No.
You don't?
I just look, I go, I've been there. It'll get better.
Oh. What do you do?
And then I say, you need to get him out of the store.
I don't think I say anything because what I'm
Well, I
gonna
don't
say
say
it.
anything.
Yeah,
But what do you think?
Oh, I think, can you control your child?
Right.
Yeah. Like,
But-
what is wrong with you?
But so let's just say our character, we open the scene and she's shopping and she sees this. If it's happening in a Walmart or it's happening in a Nordstrom's, what's going to happen is going to be different. So if you
Right. It'll
if-
totally change.
if you
Story.
if you see a kid in Walmart and you're just like, oh, there's another one. There's probably another one in the next aisle. Oh, I'm very judgmental today. I'm not usually,
Yeah, just today.
but just.
Ooh.
But if it's happening in a Nordstrom's, the salespeople are probably trained. They probably have lollipops in their pockets so that they can pacify that kid so that the mother will still buy the $500 leather jacket.
Right.
So it's going to play out differently wherever you set it.
Right.
And you're going to expect different things from where it's set. If I see that in Nordstrom's, I expect to only see one. Mm-hmm. If I see that in Walmart, I expect probably to see more.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to. Certainly am not judging mothers whose kids have a tantrum, because mine, had her share. But I know when she had it, what I was feeling was, oh my God, everybody's looking at me thinking I'm a terrible mother. I'm going to kill my kids so that they think I'm a good mother. Oh, I guess that doesn't make sense.
You just calmly walk over them and stand there till they're done. And let's go. We're out of here. But I think, to your point, and maybe we can give people a visual by using a couple movie references, that where you place the story matters. And to that, I kind of came across that I thought would really strike a chord with people. One was the movie Fargo, that is set in Minnesota, a lot of sort of cold, barren, desolate land, lots of snow, very cold. It's a pretty violent movie. But if that movie was set in sunny LA, it would be a totally different movie.
Yeah, the bitter cold is a character.
The
really.
bitter cold is a character. The white snow is a character.
Absolutely.
So when somebody, dies and there's that red blood on this very white virgin snow, that's not going to have the same effect if you're in
Starbucks.
Right. Or any place warm, really. Right. The cold and the snow really is its own character. And the only other one that kind of goes back some years, but people might remember, is The Shining. And the Bates Motel is its own character.
Absolutely.
And had that story been set in a Holiday Inn
in New York City,
what isn't going to work?
All right.
Or it's going to be a different story.
Right.
So your setting plays a huge part in the story and can actually influence the characters, because the way characters act in cold, snowy Minnesota is going to be different than how characters could act in sunny LA.
And in this case, really, the sense that you're talking about when you're writing seems to be the visual portion of it. So it's not so much you may experience, let's say, an odor as you walk into a room, and that, as the writer, you may be describing that. But really, you're talking about colors. You're talking about the furniture. You're talking about the temperature. You're really trying to get the person to be able to take a panoramic view of that room quickly, so that you can complete the story.
Right, and I think you can use some other senses too, because one of the things I talk about with the hospital is that smell. You walk through the doors, and it instantly hits you in the face. That antiseptic, that smell of sickness and whatever can just, and there's other places that happens.
Broken hearts.
Mm-hmm.
The smell of broken hearts.
The smell of sickness and broken hearts, right. The thing, if we refer back to last week, one of the mistakes that beginner writers make is they tend to set the stage, but they forget to ask the second question of what does it mean. So everything you talk about, everything your character sees or hears or tastes or touches, has to play into the scene and has to tell you something about them. If you have 2 or 3 paragraphs where your character walks into a bank and says everything he sees, who cares? Unless he's scoping it out, to rob it, right? Then if he's doing that, he's going to be noticing different things,
right?
Than if he's the little kid who's coming in with his mom hoping there are lollipops.
So in the 5 W's, you're saying that the why is the most forgotten.
The what does it mean, right? Why is that character seeing or hearing or sensing that? Right. Yes. So you want to be careful that you always make sure that what you're choosing to tell, it matters. Makes an impact.
And furthers this.
Right. Character development,
the
really.
Character development, right. All right. I think that's about all we have to say about setting as a character.
At least this time.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll circle back to it in a couple of months, because it's a very important part of writing.
Right. And I think from time to time we'll revisit some of these topics like voice and setting, because you're going to have to. They're really important. I think show don't tell would be another great subject that we'll tackle in podcasts to come. But right now, why don't we do a project check-in and see where we are all at with our books. Shelly, you want to start us off?
As the chair turns, working on some of the editing, and what I found was that the timeline when I'm meeting
and Skyping with Dawn, my developmental editor, is that choosing the correct story for her to edit in the time frame I have that allows. So the first story I sent her was very emotionally packed, full. And I gave her the most heart-wrenching one first because I wanted to test her as an editor, right?
But I think it tested
it
you.
tested me.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
what
It
I
was the
realized
one you were
is,
most emotionally connected to.
and what I
Right.
realized is if she told me that I had a week to do this, to get back to her, and my week was filled, that I couldn't edit that piece on a plane, and I couldn't edit it in a hotel room, and I couldn't edit it on a lunch break, because I needed to be in a safe place for a couple of hours with a box of tissues in order to do that editing
For that particular
story. So it was deciding what I needed to send her so that, even if it was a sad story, it still had to have at least some good part, some warmth to it, not so tragic. I needed to not send her the tragic stuff when my life was filled with so many things I didn't have a lot of time to edit. So I'm learning on,
what to send based on
Yes.
what you're doing that
Yes,
week and what
like
you'll have
what life
time.
allows.
Exactly.
right,
Which
because
goes
it's
back
not
to
the same timeline.
Right. Which
Mhm.
goes back to how we write. When we write, you're choosing what to edit based
Yes.
on what you have in your schedule for the rest of the week.
The mental space. You need mental
Yeah.
space for this,
Right.
and emotional space.
And it could still be, the one that I edited and sent her this week was, speaking at a client's funeral. And the bizarre thing that happened is on the plane on the way out, I did the editing. And on the way back, I wanted to do some more, but I was just spent from the weekend. But Debbie will love this. Like I got goosebumps. I got into my truck at Boston Airport and I flipped on the radio, and the radio didn't come on. It logged into my phone, and it played a song that was played at the funeral. Made my hair stand up. It was like
Your purple hair.
made my purple hair stand
on end.
right up.
But it was like she was maybe saying,
I feel like she was
sign.
saying
yeah,
that,
she was saying,
it's
hi,
okay.
thank
Like,
you.
Yeah,
You told
but
my
we're done with
story.
the story. Like,
Right.
let's wait. The editing's been done. Let's see what she has to say.
And how anyone cannot believe that's what it is. Some people say it's just the radio or just the phone. No, it's not.
Like, how did
it's
it
magic.
do that? My phone has
Right.
so much music on it. It picked that one song
Yeah.
to pick up on my speakers in my truck and just so.
And that should be another show about trusting the universe will support you.
signals
Yes.
that we get.
Yes.
Or it could have just been
We-
Big Brother watching you, knowing what you had
Shelly
gone through
loves this.
Yes.
and pulling it up.
We're going to make a note. Universe support. Universal support.
I like it. Mandra, where are you at with yours?
So I've connected with one of the nurses that was a really big part of Brad's care. And she's away right now, but when she gets back, I think she's up for reading the story, doing some editing from the medical standpoint to see if I have all my kind of facts and whatnot straight. And also, which would be so nice because she did really get to know our family. She probably has a few memories that I don't, or I
Sure.
forgot,
Different
or I wasn't.
perspective.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So it'd be interesting to sit down with her and kind of see what she remembers, and then also make sure I have my medical stuff all
That's
squared
exciting.
away. Yeah, so it was really nice to reach out to her. It'd be fun to see her again anyway. She was amazing, amazing nurse, so skilled with managing family members and making everybody feel comfortable and part of the team, and just took great care of Brad. So yeah,
That's great.
Wow.
so that was just a little connection,
That's
and
nice.
hopefully we get a meeting set up soon.
Deb, where are you at in your books?
Well-behaved woman coming undone. I was working with Carol this week. She's my copywriter for the back cover, which I did, send her an original, but I knew I needed help. I knew it wasn't where my strength in writing is. The thing I liked about her is my very first line of the back cover is, it was just an ordinary day in an ordinary woman's life, ... until it wasn't. And she came back and said I should change. I shouldn't use two ordinaries in one sentence, which I totally agree.
Okay, yeah.
That's not a good, but I did make the choice to do that. Because I thought that was kind of important. She came back with, it was just an ordinary day in an average woman's life, ... until it wasn't. which I totally understood her reason for changing it.
Sure.
You don't want the same word. But average woman is not the same thing as ordinary woman. So I wrote, as we're going back and forth, I explained that to her, and so I kept my ordinary. The thing I liked is she came back and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to stick to my guns. I don't like it. And I really admired her for that.
Absolutely.
It makes me trust her. And you know what it made me think? Yeah. Maybe I should change it too. Because when she was that strong, I thought, I'll revisit this. Maybe I should change it too. It was just an ordinary day in Jody Devlin's life, ... until it wasn't.
Did you just make up a character there?
No, I have to.
With your last name?
I might use your last name. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I wonder if I have to get your permission. But what do you think? It was just an ordinary day in Jody Devlin's life, ... until it wasn't.
I'm going to ask you this question. You're a professional dance instructor, and you have a very spirited student, Randy, who will argue with you about what he did, what he didn't do, or a technique. And
I have heard those arguments. I can attest.
What is it that you think to yourself? You know what? I'm a professional. I got 20 plus years in this. Who are you to tell me? Because I'm the pro. I think you should trust your pro, and that's just what I think. You hire someone to do a job.
Okay. Where's my boxing gloves? I'll bring them on out. The difference is, my friend, I am also a pro here. I'm also a writer.
Ooh, she's standing her ground right now.
And some students may make the argument that they're also dancers. I'm just saying.
No, Randy is definitely a dancer, and I listened to so many of his arguments. Hey, hi, Randy. Miss you, love you. Ironically, I called him on the way here because
you kidding?
Anytime he and I go far out of go on a flight, and I'm leaving today to go to a flight. Anytime we do that, we always call each other and tell each other that we love each other. We've been friends for 20 years. He's known me since Sophie was 2. He's been one of my closest friends, and so I just spoke to him. So yes,
Randy, now we're talking about him.
Now we're throwing you under the bus. Even under the bus, Randy, I love you.
Was it meant to be, or is it a conspiracy? Was I listening to your call? No, I wasn't.
You weren't even in the You're right.
Well, that just speaks to the point that at the end of the day, you're going to get editing and feedback, and
you have to figure out who you trust and who is good and who gets what you're trying to do. So that last line isn't out of the question, but we'll
see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
But that's interesting. That's furthering along. This is going on the back of the book.
Back blurb, yep.
Yeah, the back blurb. Very good.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's take a little walk around the neighborhood and see what we have going on over there. Why don't we rock it on over to Shelly's Inspiration Alley first today? Change it up a bit.
Well, my shout out, and ironically so connected to the what we were talking about before with universal support, bizarre that my shout out today was to talk about inspiration and where it comes from. It comes from everywhere. And one of my favorite books is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven from Mitch Albom. Bizarre that I already had that tagged out today. This was before the song came on the radio. Bizarre, right?
Yeah. It's great. That's the universe.
I love it. The universe is talking. But, in that connection, I love the book that it talks about the people that you meet when you get there to explain your life aren't the people that you inspired. And that's the thing, that inspiration comes from everywhere. And I want to know where it comes from. I did a post on my Facebook page around Christmas. A friend of mine had done it and said, here's a shout out to everybody, even if we don't talk on social media. What is a memory of you and I that makes you smile? And I had 109 comments from people I haven't talked to. One woman I hadn't talked to in over 20 years took the time to make a comment. And some of these things that I've inspired people, I never even knew that I had inspired them. Mm-hmm. And, Mitch inspired me with this book, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and made me remember one of the first people I met in my career was this woman, Beth, that I worked with in the first salon I ever worked in. And I have never met a person to this day that was so half full. She always put the shoe on the other foot. And it's just that whole where inspiration comes, that you realize inspiration comes from other people. Mm-hmm. I'm there to inspire people, but I don't even realize some of the people I inspire.
Right. You don't always know who you're connecting with or touching. Yeah.
No, not at all. So my shout out is to Mitch Albom and the 5 people you meet in heaven.
Well,
for inspiring Shelly.
let's invite him to the Writers Podcast.
Let me send him an email. Let me just
Make sure
send him
that
an email.
K is next
Hi,
to our
Mitch.
callers for reaction.
Mitch, the camera's right there, right here, Dad. Mitch, we're gonna give you a call. Listen, I'm gonna write that in my notes. I'm gonna take care of that
Yep,
right now.
you do. Get on that.
I'm gonna do it.
Thanks,
I'm gonna do
Shell.
it. Thank you.
All right, are we going to dance on over to Debbie's Life Pondering Square?
All right. Well, last week I showed you the picture of Alice, and once I did one fairy tale pondering, I had to do more. I wanted to do Cinderella, and of course, the only one who could do Cinderella for me is Sophie, my daughter.
I was the second runner-up, just for the record.
But the pink dress didn't fit him. He tried it on.
I'd like to see pictures from that photo shoot.
Yeah, that would be a very different line of ponderings. But Sophie, of course, did not want to do it. I had to bribe her. I had to buy her a laptop, which don't tell her, but she was starting college. So I had every intention of buying her a new laptop to go to school.
That's okay.
But
I don't tell them that.
No. So she said, I'll do it if you buy me a laptop. I thought, deal. So ironically, I went to Randy's house, who I've mentioned before. His house, he has this gorgeous spiral staircase. And I had one saying in mind, happily ever after is just the beginning. And as every creative process, it morphed into its own energy. She had rhinestone shoes. And so as she was walking up the stairs, I asked her to take her shoes off and just to hold them in her hands as if the party was over. And we added the saying, sometimes the end is the best place to start. I had borrowed a gorgeous glass pumpkin from another friend, and we got a shot of Sophie looking down at the pumpkin with her hand on the stem with the most intensive, pensive look on her face. And she had been through a lot that year. And the saying came to me, I didn't know the weight of a broken heart. Now I do. Jonathan was my photographer on that shoot as well, and he took a picture of her, which we have up on our site here, up nice and close, of her kissing the little mouse Gus Gus as he stares up at the camera. If you could see yourself through my eyes, you would know how magical you are. And I think that's something we all need to remember.
Oh.
So beautiful.
Jonathan, you get some good shots. He shoots. He really does. Yeah,
Part-time photographer
It's a
too.
Yeah.
blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes. And Mandra, let's skip over to the wellness corner.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a recipe today. One of the easiest Whole30 recipes to make ever is called Beyond Easy Pulled Pork. And there are some pictures of it up on my Instagram account at Mandra Be Well. Literally, it is onions, some spices, and a pork butt in the crock pot. That's it. Just those ingredients.
Okay, it sounded good until
I said pork butt. I know, but it's hilarious. Like, I think it's hilarious going and buying a pork butt.
Do you have to ask for it? Or is there
I did the first time, and now I know where it is.
Oh.
And it says it right on there. And my son and husband think it's a riot, too, that we spice a pork butt and we stick it in there.
I know her. They definitely do.
Yes, we get a lot of jokes out of that. But it is delicious. And then it literally just falls apart. It is 6-year-old approved. He will eat it.
Wow.
And it's just so easy.
Will you pass that on to the producer? Maybe he'll make it.
Sure. And you put it in your crock pot, you set it, and you're done.
I don't know if we have a crock pot.
We
Really?
have a crock pot.
Oh, Deb, do you know what a crock pot looks like? It's a big pot with a cord.
I don't know if we have
plugs in.
Jonathan.
She put it in the closet yesterday. I'm like, can you put the crock pot away for me? And she put it in the closet. She goes,
She goes, this round thing. This round thing with a dial.
We have one of those.
That's how you get cooking done when you're not home cooking.
she's never home cooking, just for the record.
This is a perfect recipe for you.
That's perfect for him.
For
Give it to him.
Yes.
Yes. And if Darby will eat it, maybe I'll eat it.
You'll totally eat it. And it's delicious. It's easy. And you can put it with pair it with any vegetable you want. I'll talk to Jonathan later about that.
Oh.
Since you're looking at me with a blank stare.
I was thinking Pop-Tart. Pop-Tart on the side.
So anyway, I'm just going to give Sarah Fragoso credit for that one. She did a great job with that recipe, and you can find it at sarahfragoso.com. And I think that's about all we have for you today. I want to thank you for listening. Check out our Writer's Block NH Facebook, the Writer's Block podcast, and may you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.